This question actually came from one of our viewers here on the channel. Dr. Paul, how can I convince my negative spouse to be more positive? You know, the way things are going in your key relationships make a huge difference for every aspect of your life. And if things aren't great at home, things aren't great anywhere. So I can really appreciate this question, and negativity becomes very toxic. I didn't just say your spouse is toxic. I said negativity is toxic. So I can appreciate the question. Here are 4 specific strategies that you can use to move your marriage toward a more positive place with a free gift that I'm going to offer you right at the end. Here's the first strategy. I know this is where some people fire me, but just go with this for a minute. You become more positive. You become the example of the spouse that you're hoping to have. Your example of positivity will go so much farther than lectures, which are usually seen as criticism anyway. I remember learning early in my career from Drs. John and Julie Gottman from the Gottman Institute in Washington that there is a predictable pattern to troubled marriages, troubled relationships, and they called it the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse are criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. Here's what happens when we, as a spouse, identify something that our spouse needs to change. And it might be negativity, like it is in this case. As soon as we see something that they need to change, it looks like, sounds like, walks like, and talks like criticism to them, even if we don't intend it that way. Well, then we're off to the races. And even though you're right, and can I just give that one to you? You're right. You're right. Things would be so much better if your spouse would just shape up. And I'm not even joking about that. You're right. But that's not useful because it's seen as criticism. The defensive response that you get is not helpful for your cause. So we're going to just shift that up a little bit, and you will become the example. Strategy number 2, check your heart. I recently read a book called The Anatomy of Peace by the Arbinger Institute. In this book was a powerful concept about checking your heart. Is your heart at peace or is your heart at war? This might be a little strange to think of your heart being at peace or your heart being at war with your spouse. But check. Is your heart marching into battle to right the wrongs that have been committed against it? Or is your heart at peace and really seeking for the healing and healthiness of your spouse? Only you will know this. Oh, that's not really true, is it? Because other people are going to notice this too. The dog will notice if your heart is at war. The reason this strategy is so powerful is because where your heart is one of the biggest factors in determining how other people are going to react to you. Do you believe that? If you're not quite sure, just consider how you react to people whose hearts are at war with you. Have you had that experience before? Maybe with a coworker, maybe with an employer, maybe with your spouse. If someone's heart is at war with you, how do you react to them? Let's apply what we learned here and realize that how other people react to you is determined mostly by where your heart is in relation to them. I've got 2 more strategies for you before I share those. Click that subscribe button right down there and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when the next video is up for you. Here's strategy number 3. Be willing to listen first to understand. One of the most powerful communication strategies that I know as a professional psychologist is this one. Most people go into an interaction with their agenda, the thing that they want to accomplish, the point that they want to get across. Well, guess what? If everybody's coming with their agenda, who's going to listen? Be that person. Here's another way to encode that strategy. Postpone your own need to be understood about this until your spouse is completely convinced that you understand them and their point of view. Can you do that? This works wonders. I've seen this create miracles in relationships because of the way that it changes the dynamic. Once again, postpone your own need to be understood until your spouse is convinced that you fully understand them. Powerful. And here's the fourth strategy. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's principle. Principles determine all of life's outcomes. And when I say principle, I mean like gravity. When do you get up in the morning and think, oh, I wonder if gravity's on today? It tends to be, and your life is affected by your understanding of that principle and the way you conduct your life in accordance with it. It's the same thing with marriage. There are principles that determine the successful outcome of marriage. This leads me right into the free gift that I wanted to offer you as part of our conversation here today. I have compiled on this list the 9 principles that are guaranteed to improve your marriage. Guaranteed. How does that sound? Come grab these principles. Go to the URL on the screen, drpauljenkins.com/9, the number 9 principles, all one word, and I will put this right in your inbox. Let me tell you how powerful this is. I have been a shrink now for 30 years. You can't shock me. I have heard some of the darndest crap you can imagine from the situations people have shared with me. I'll bet yours is not going to shock me either. And in that 30 years of clinical experience, I have never seen anything in a marriage that couldn't be resolved with the proper application of these 9 principles. That's how powerful they are. Now, you might be thinking of some potential exceptions to that, but remember, I have seen murder, incest, abuse, infidelity. You can't shock me. And there is a principle for all of those, usually several. Now, a little warning about this. It's for personal use only. And I put that warning right on the PDF that I'm going to send you as well. This is for personal use only. Go back to what we talked about earlier. You're going to be an example, not a lecturer. You're not going to identify what your spouse needs to change. You're going to become the spouse that you want to have. And that's a little counterintuitive, but as soon as we identify what somebody else needs to change, it triggers that defensive response because it looks like criticism. Go to the 9 principles and ask yourself, which of these 9 principles can I apply? I guarantee you're going to see 2 or 3 that your spouse could apply. Yeah, and the first one's positivity, by the way. And even though that's true, it's not helpful. So get back on what you control. Will you do that? Go get the principles, drpauljenkins.com/9 principles, and let's take it from there. We'll see you next time.